Hey people, it's me again. So, anyways, there's this pattern that's been going on with these so-called feminists, that they believe that a woman's word should be believed above all else, despite the fact that women could lie about sexual harassment, sexual assault, and that they wanted to say that they've been sexually harassed or sexually assaulted just so they can get this guy in trouble for whatever reason, I mean, they could say that sort of stuff just to get back at a guy that broke up with her, or get back at a guy simply because he got the promotion over her, despite the fact that she wasn't even that qualified, and just that she wanted that sort of thing just because she has a vagina, that sort of thing.
Okay, Rasputin. Care to tell me where this is written in feminist theory, because I remember studying a whole lot of different forms of feminism and not a single one stated what you just asserted, nor have I seen it being utilised anywhere in society. As someone working in the field, what I have seen are feminists demanding to know why women are often held to a different and much higher standard of evidence when it comes to crimes such as rape and abuse than other people, but not the straw man you are peddling here that completely rewrites reality. Court is not a nice thing to go through, especially caught in a society which has a rape culture. If you think it is, then clearly your perception can't be trusted. The crap you're spouting here with your fantasy scenarios which have never been shown to be any sort of problem, this sickening what-ifism about the vengeful ex or the company rival, is just fucked up. Like, you can have countless independent women give nearly exactly the same account of a serial rapist modus operandi, and the process of court be dragged out over the next decade. Meanwhile, the women who dare to come forward will face untold levels of abuse and harassment by people who have nothing to do with either person. They've just been sold the shit you're filling out here. Nobody has claimed that a woman's word is law, but there's a clear double standard in how people treat cases of sexual harassment and rape versus other crimes that is being called out. You're not angry at the idea that women are trusted. They aren't. You're angry that rape is no longer being given special privilege, which is a sickening realization to come to.
You know what I mean? So, anyways, as I was kind of saying about all that now, with all that, is that these so-called feminists enjoy being victims as far as that goes.
Well done. It took you a mere 21 seconds to go from talking about your fantasy world in which men are the victims of rampant false rape allegations to accusing feminists that they like playing the victim. That's got to be a contender for the most self-unaware segment to a video. The reality is, feminism exists to tackle said inequality. The very existence of feminism tells us that no, said women do not like being the victim, so much in fact that they started a movement to put an end to it. What you're saying here is akin to saying that people who go to the doctor like to be sick. It's total crap.
That they could run around and say things that when even a straight guy looks at them, they're raping them with their eyes or something like that,
Hearing this phrase from a lot of anti-feminists, I decided to do some digging on the term and found that outside their circles, it's very rarely stated and next to never taken seriously in the context they present. Prior to 2005, the only mentions of it I could find online were from a few really badly written stories from 2001. Those and a 2003 interview with an Australian nurse who served in the Second World War and described how a friend of hers went over to the American canteen to buy some luxury items the Americans were known to have. And the nurse is laughing as she tells the interviewer about how her friend encountered an American who looked her up and down as if undressing her and raping her in his mind. And that's the way I generally understood the term for the longest time, getting rather rapey vibes from an individual, especially at a moment of vulnerability, such as being alone. But anti-feminists can't present it in the way said phrase naturally occurred. They can't present it as a term to describe certain vibes given off by another person's body language. Oh no. Apparently, feminists actually believe a straight guy looking at a woman is akin to rape. Of course, this is not the case. This is not how said phrase is being utilised in the few instances it is actually used, because it's not that common of an expression. The only real high-profile case I could find was a 2010 to 2012 incident in which the son of the then Utah Governor Gary Herbert, Mr. Nathan Herbert, began stalking Arizona Butters after a restraining order filed by Butters in 2005 lapsed. During the case, Butters did testify that it was like Herbert was, quote, raping me with his eyes, end quote. Like, if you're going to keep getting snarky over the way a woman who was at the time terrified for her life described the way she felt about her stalker, then maybe you're just a shitty human being. Now it seems that sometime after this the expression became memified in the whole anti-feminist clusterfuck that really kicked off around 2014. Fact is, I know this notion is older since it was used as a punchline in the third season of South Park back in 1999 with the sexual harassment panda episode. But the number of cases I can find of this expression being used in a non-satirical sense are near non-existent, and even in those few cases, the context of why and how it is said really shows you that you are just making problems where there are none. Like, maybe it's as if they were picturing raping me would be clearer, but that's all said expression actually means.
I even remember hearing one of these type of so-called feminists back in, I think it was like 2010 or 2011, when one of them had said that sort of thing. And this was way before the whole modern day fourth wave intersectional feminism had reached its peak about almost like 2 years ago at this point, you know, as far as that goes. So anyways, especially what happened with like the Me Too movement and all that, and how it's died down simply because of what's his name, Aziz Ansari, I forgot that actor and comedian's name, you know, but he was the one that was falsely accused of sexual assault when really he just had a awkward encounter with this woman, you know, and then the fact that some of her friends must have pushed her to get further with it when it's just really, she just had a bad date or encounter with them and that was it, yeah.
Here's a rule. If you're doing a video to your own schedule and you can't be asked to look up the details of a case, or hell, link them in the description later, don't try to fucking use it as evidence for your argument. I don't have time to play guess who the fuck I'm talking about with you. I mean, I can understand this with public speaking or live speaking, but would then hope that you'd find out the case you are using and then note it later for those still interested. But this is a video you sat down to do at your own leisure, and while social justice warriors like myself pour hours into carefully researching and referencing our points, you seemingly can't be bothered to even learn the basics or the examples you want to use. Fact is, the Me Too movement was not just about sexual assault and rape. It was about all aspects to rape culture, which includes everything from general sexual harassment up to rape, because social interaction is a complicated thing. For example, getting aggressive when a woman refuses to talk to you at a bar, whilst not part of rape, is part of rape culture in that you are asserting your right to her time over her right to decide. In this, you turn social interaction from a mutual process into a one-sided deal which, when repeated enough, can impact a person's perception on sex and the right to bodily autonomy. But until you give an actual case, we can't actually discuss it, and this point by you can just be ignored.
I mean, personally, I had my fair share of bad encounters with certain guys, but I never really wanted to go around and file charges against them just because of that. I just simply just cut them out of my life and that's it. You know what I mean?
We get what you're saying, yet thanks to being educated on the topic, we also know why what you are saying is total shite. Shanna Fisher was a 16-year-old girl who told a teenage boy to leave her alone for 4 months. This went on, and her mother tried to do something, but nothing happened. Shanna Fisher was murdered along with 9 of her classmates in the Santa Fe, Texas shooting by the very same teenage boy. And this is only a very recent example, a part of a much larger issue, and you playing the fool and claiming that you don't get the problem because said problem hasn't impacted you doesn't suddenly magic said problem away. It simply proves that you're willing to let your incredulity put lives at risk because your ideology is prized above reality. Saying no to guys as a woman can be dangerous.
So, anyways, that's what I was kind of saying about all that now, with that sort of thing here, is that there's this blatant double standard when it comes to that, because they say that sort of stuff about how the women should be believed at all times, but when it's a man having the same thing, we're told to completely ignore that because they're just suffering from toxic masculinity, you know, that sort of stuff there, which is really dumb when you think about it, you know. I mean, the whole law should apply equally at that point, you know.
Now you're just outright fucking lying. Who the fuck says that? We as feminists bring up toxic masculinity when little pricks like you throw out male survivors in the game of whataboutism? Sure, when you throw out male survivors as a rhetorical device in attempts to attack feminism, then we point out the fact that the only ones not taking said victims seriously are you lot. You're the ones who clap their hands like a silly little shit when a boy is raped by a teacher going, "Where was she when I was at school? Lucky boy." Or turn around to those suffering deep psychological harm from abuse and tell them to fuck back off to their safe spaces. Men don't cry. That's on you. Feminists have actually been at the forefront of dissolving the stupid perception that only women ever need help and that being a woman and thus proxy, needing help, is degrading. To seek help is seen to make a man less of a man, not due to feminism, but due to toxic masculinity as propagated by anti-feminists. That's the only time we bring this up. We don't turn to a survivor coming forth and tell them, well, I'm sorry, toxic masculinity. So what the fuck are you on about? If you want to actually help said people, support feminists in breaking down these absurd narratives.
Because I even remember in one episode of Law and Order SVU, and it was probably like the third, maybe like the fourth season, where they investigated a man who was raped. And they pretty much investigated all the way through and arrested the female suspect and all of that. And I think the suspect had gotten convicted anyways, you know, that the suspect would have been convicted anyways, regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, you know. And in a way, the fact is, the whole squad would have lost their badges if they didn't take that guy's claim seriously, as far as that goes.
So TV had a positive representation of how to handle male rape, and that means feminism and social justice warriors have fallen how? Like, this point just comes out of nowhere, and I'm trying to put together the relevance of all this. We're not the ones abusing victims into hiding. That's the self-declared MRA community who only use male victims as a meat shield. That's all they see them as. A distraction. Cannon fodder. Nothing else. Feminists, including myself, actually respect said survivors. I've had to give support and counselling to survivors. What the fuck have you done?
So, anyways, it's one of the things I said before about it. These sort of laws are supposed to apply equally. It's like the case with the anti-discrimination laws, that in some ways now, I mean, they were even the government is now investigating USC for anti-white discrimination, which is kind of funny if you think about it, but it's true that it should apply equally to that matter, instead of just having it be, whatchamacallit, where it just applies only one way and not the other, So, anyways, as I was kind of saying about all that now, it kind of depends on how long this victim narrative of fourth wave intersectional feminism is going to last. And I believe it's not going to really last that long, as far as maybe like at the end of the year or the end of next year or so, that we're not going to hear from these so-called feminists, because the fact that we're starting to see these hypocrisy out in full force.
What hypocrisy? There's increasing awareness surrounding male victims, and the current form of feminism is nurturing that. The only resistance I see, which is really labelled as feminism, are the pseudo-feminists, so people who don't meet the core definition of feminism. Now, this is not a no true Scotsman, by the way. It's called a well-defined Scotsman. Feminism has always been focused on the equality of gender. The few that stray away from that don't redefine the term for the majority, and noting that fact isn't looking to some irrelevant quality. Anyway, so far in this video you've only made a few baseless claims, and yet already you seem to be moving on to the conclusion and predictions for the future. I'm just standing here thinking, where's the rest of your video? Where's the point? Where's the evidence? Where's the argument? So far it's just been a paper chain of red herrings, meaning that your conclusions are drumming out as a total non sequitur.
And then come to think of it, is like I said before about it, is, and any of these other people would say about it, that the internet does not forget. And that we could look back at all this and then wonder what is so bad about this form of feminism. Is the fact that this form of fourth wave intersectional feminism is really just about self-serving and then lining up their pockets and trying to perpetuate actual sexism and misogyny, rather than trying to fight for equality among all genders.
Can we get a demonstration of this? Historically, every time I've talked about feminism, my channel has suffered. Sometimes hundreds of people have unsubscribed over a single video. The Jordan Peterson video I just put out was the first in what seems to be a shift brought about by the social justice warrior hysteria coming to an end as people wake up to the tactics which have been used against us. Now, yeah, there are people looking to line their pockets, but the big money has always been in offering people the convenient lies and telling them there's nothing wrong with their bigoted ass and that they're fine the way they are. That's always been the way to make money. Just look at Jordan Peterson. All he had to do was lie about the C-16 bill and tell people advice their mums have been telling them for a long fucking time, and apparently he's rolling in the dough. I think that projects a little too much.
Yeah, especially as far as like what happened, a few months ago when people were looking up the definition of feminism because they wanted to know the real definition of feminism, not this fourth wave intersectional feminism, and say things that all forms of oppression is rooted in misogyny or something like that. Oh, let's blame the hetero white cis male for every little thing, and then what's going to happen there is it just simply perpetuates the whole cycle.
No, people just started to realize that you're talking total crap. You're the one actively lying about what feminism is, not us the feminists. The projection on your part is massive. I mean, I'm used to seeing these levels of projection having spent the last 7 years critiquing religion, including creationism, but it still manages to catch me out.
Because, as I stated before, these feminists aren't really interested in equality or anything of that sort. They're interested in lining their pockets, doing their charity drives and all that, and virtue signaling and all this. For what? Because it's easier to do that than making their own living and all that sort of stuff. And it's easier for them to do that because of the fact that a lot of the younger people that are like my age aren't even religious anymore. And so what better way to make all that money is by becoming a social justice warrior and all that, instead of being these little preachers or whatever. And that's kind of like the case what I see with Zoe Quinn, Anita Sarkeesian, and these prominent social justice warrior types there. They're like the evangelical Christians, that they're only interested in fleecing people, and that's just about it. But unfortunately for them is that the whole social justice warrior thing is on its way out, because people are going to get tired of it, and that some of them are just going to grow out of that whole social justice warrior thing, you know, and then move on to actual oppression, not these microaggressions and all that kind of stuff, you know. So, anyways, I guess that's probably it. So, talk to you guys later.
Anita Sarkeesian promised a product which she delivered, including all her extended goals for the extra tiers she reached. Yes, it took slightly longer than expected, but that's what happens when you want to do people right and giving them the bonus content to make up for the extra money. Now, the money nowhere near covered the harassment she's received over the years for nothing more than creating a project people believed in and were rewarded for with the full project. As for Zoe Quinn, do explain your evidence that she fleeced anyone, because so far all you're doing is exposing yourself to be one of many petulant man-childs who couldn't handle others being in what they'd declared to be an all-boys zone, so organised a harassment campaign. I have no time for incel gamergators who want to shit their pants and blame feminism for the smell. Grow up and take some damn responsibility for your life. As for the idea that social justice warriors are the new clergy, what's your basis for that? The fact that this social justice warrior is using evidence whilst you're just using word salad? Since I'm pretty sure if you look at things objectively, you've got things entirely backwards. I mean, patriarchy is an element that has for the longest time been tied to religion, and in many ways still is. As for what you deem to be actual inequality, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. You've dulled your mind to reality in order to preserve your pestilent beliefs, as demonstrated repeatedly throughout this response. You have no ability at all to lecture others on this topic, at least until you dump the willful incredulity. Hi there, I just want to say a few things here at the end of the video before you go. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who's ever donated to the channel via Patreon, giving a special thanks to the following people: Hannah Banghart, Matthew Kovac, John Schoenrock, Alexander Williams, and Daniel Martinez. Your support has ensured this channel its ability to grow over the years, and for that we are truly thankful. I'd also like to ask that you comment down below and like this video, as well as subscribe and follow Essence Thought on Facebook and Twitter. Please also consider following Atheist Alliance International on Facebook, an organisation dedicated to helping atheists around the globe. Lastly, I'd like to request that you treat the people responded to in this video with a reasonable degree of respect. Whilst we fully understand that there are justifiable limits to said respect when tackling certain heavy topics, and anger can be a very genuine emotion in tackling injustice, do note any comments utilising language which insults others on the basis of perceived gender, sexuality, ethnicity or ability, both mental and physical, will be removed immediately, and the commenter may be blocked on the moderator's discretion. Let's keep this space one which upholds the humanist values. Thank you for watching.